It is 8:40 here on this Wednesday edition. Let me live on KOWB. My pleasure to welcome back to the program. We've had him on a few different times over the last few years. Senator Chris Rothfuss. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Good morning. Happy to be here.
I appreciate the time. And I reached out to you and Senator Moniz here. Wanted to get a couple different perspectives. I'm going to get Senator Moniz on the show here very soon. But last week, Supreme Court strikes down the law across the country that was basically banning gambling except for in 4 states across the USA. And I've seen some different reports about, well, Wyoming could be one of those states that opens things up to sports books and things like that. And it got me thinking about what would be the practicality of that and what would be the future of that. And so I appreciate you coming in this morning. Let's start there. We're going to get into a couple other things as well. But the future with sports books opening up, would Wyoming consider something like that? And I guess from your perspective, what would be an impact of an industry like that coming to Wyoming here?
Well, I do think we'll consider it. It's an interesting topic. You think back to the debate that surrounded the lottery in Wyoming as kind of a forecast of what we might see with the debate on sports betting. And it was very contentious. It was a narrow decision that ended up allowing for the lottery. There was a lot of hope that the lottery would bring substantial revenue to the state. We haven't seen that. We've seen some revenue, but it's been modest. It really hasn't been the game changer we had been hoping for, because again, in that instance, we're selling to Wyoming. We've only got the population of 580,000+. So when your product is only marketed to that 580,000, it's very difficult to have any game-changing outcome on the economy, on the revenue structure for the state. And so when we look at sports betting, then the question is, how would we do it? And with sports betting, you can set it up as they've done in Nevada, where it's a national, if not international, business. You can get your revenue from that business if we set the revenue structure up correctly through legislation. So there would be some possibility of real economic development, real additional revenue for the state, some good jobs. These would be tech jobs probably at that point if we're looking broadly instead of just narrowly. I think there's more potential in the state of Wyoming for it to be a national or international enterprise that's tech-based than just having some ability to have gambling at your table or in the casino, wherever that might be. And those two business models then I think would be really the conversation that we'd be talking about in the legislature. And I have almost no doubt in the next legislative session we'll be talking about it.
Well, obviously you guys discuss a lot of important issues in a short span of time here in Wyoming, but it just got me thinking about how would this impact, because we hear such, well, not such, but a lot of conversation about trying to diversify things, and you brought up something I was going to talk about, which was the Wild Lotto and its impact. And while there have been, steadily increasing amounts distributed back to the local governments, whether it's cities and towns or counties, and it's great to see some of that at least coming in. It's not a giant number. Is it impacted by the fact that other states around us also have lotteries? I think about Colorado has lottery things, Montana has things. Montana was one of the 4 that you could bet on sports legally here. Is there an impact with that in states around us that have an industry, when it comes to kind of gambling and things like that? I
think so with gambling. I think the lottery, though, again, you're just really taxing your own sales. And so we captured the sales, or more than the sales, that would have been going out of state and that leakage to Colorado and our other neighboring states. And more. I think we were probably getting around $6 million in revenue a year, and if you think about that, 600,000-ish people in the state, we're talking about $10 a person per year. I don't know that you can really do a lot better than that with a system like that. It really is trying to capture the broader audience, where if we were an early adopter, hypothetically, of sports betting, and got a few businesses here that really set up enterprises that were then reaching out nationally and globally and bringing in revenue from other locations, where we weren't just trying to tap 600,000 people or 550,000 people for revenue, we were trying to tap millions of people. That's where you can actually see substantial benefits for the state of Wyoming. It's like our natural resources. It's not the consumption of the natural resources in the state of Wyoming that really affect the budget. It's the fact that we ship nationally. We were around 40% of the national coal market, for example, and that's where you can actually make revenue that will affect our budget.
And obviously the tech sector is somewhere it seems like that a lot of legislators would like to see grow in the state. What's your perspective on trying to diversify the economy and seeing that maybe that tech sector expand here in the state and the opportunities we do have in the cowboy states?
Well, most of the legislative leadership and the governor have agreed that that's probably our best bet of an alternative sector. Right? Energy sector and mineral development sector are still going to be positive for the state of Wyoming for many years to come. But if we want to branch out, let's branch out someplace that's different. And technology, we have some unique advantages for. We just passed some legislation this last session that made computer science a core educational requirement from K through 12 in our schools. We're the only state in the country that has that. We went from last in the country, somewhere around there, to we're trying to be first on computer science education for that reason, because we recognize that as a sector that's going to be important for the future of the state. I'm serving on a blockchain task force. We passed 5 pieces of legislation related to blockchain and crowdfunding this last session to try and improve innovation in this advanced and emerging information technology sector. And then we're going to focus on what other statutory changes need to be done. We've actually got a meeting at the end of this week on that right here in Laramie. If anybody wants to go to it, it'll be at the Wyoming Union on Thursday and Friday of this week.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on with technology, and I do see this as a possible technology play if we do it right. But if we don't do it right, honestly, there's a lot of resources that have to go into just managing that type of a system. The lottery takes a lot of work. This will take more work. There's more potential for fraud and abuse in sports betting than there is in lottery, which can be tightly regulated. And we're not even running the lottery. Remember, the lotteries are in other states except for the one that we recently adopted, the smaller one, which is just the Wyoming lottery. We do manage that one fully. So you get into sports betting, now you need a bureaucracy around it. If we do it small, then the bureaucracy is not going to be worth the investment. We would have to really have a lot of potential for it to be worth the investment. And then there's a lot of folks that are just against the concepts of gambling, of the type of societal implications that would bring, and those are reasonable. Those are real costs associated with it.
Well, and the reason why I wanted to get into the conversation was because, you know, I see some releases from the American Gaming Institute, and you're talking about 150 billion waged illegally just in this country last year alone.
Right.
150 billion, and I'm just trying to sit here and go, how does Wyoming get a piece of that pie? Yeah. Now, the other thing is we've seen that some of your professional sports leagues, they would like some uniform standards and maybe Congress to adopt them versus run by states. What would be the balance of, if Congress does pass some things, how would that then be kind of managed by the states then, and what would you look at from a state legislative perspective in terms of you know, putting things together for Wyoming in the future?
Well, in recent years, the states have led Congress most of the time because the state legislatures are more effective and nimble than Congress has been. We've seen paralysis in Congress for over a decade, and I don't see that changing in the near future. So the reality is it'll probably be states looking for best practices from other states, working together. We have state compacts that occasionally form where you adopt uniform regulations, so that's a possibility once you have some regulations that are reasonable, that states generally find to be positive. Then you can get the states working together to create uniform law. There's another entity called Uniform Law Commission, which does just that, trying to bring together the best practices for regulating that states can then adopt themselves, sometimes tweak it, but it's usually best if you have good laws and standard practices to not tweak them too much and create discontinuity among the states.